professional economics or even a tax, somebody who studied tax could advise his government or her government that increase from 10% to 75%.
Gambia's sole beverage company, Banjo Breweries Limited, has threatened to shut down if the government did not revise its decision of the 75% increase of excise duty. Clashes resumed in Tripoli between forces loyal to Libya's UN-recognized Government of National Accord (GNA) and forces led by Commander Khalifa Haftar. The second Chinese Belt and Road Forum wrapped up over the weekend in Beijing with political and business leaders over 40 countries in attendance. These are the headlines. More coming on your way on The World Today on iAfrica TV. It's 10:30 p.m. in Istanbul, 11:30 a.m. in Washington State, 19:30 GMT here in the Gambia. You're watching The World Today Evening Bulletin. We now kick off with our first story. Barely 6 months after Gambega Company Limited closed down due to high taxes imposed on breweries companies in the country, Gambia's sole breweries company that produces soft and hard refreshments, Banjo Breweries Limited, has threatened to close down operations and send employees home if the government does not revise its decision of the 75% increase of excise duty on domestic produce beer. The Ministry of Finance in 2019 budget estimations increased the duty exercise on local produce hard drinks from 15% to a 75% raise. With only 4 months into the new policy, Banjo Breweries Limited have already laid off 18 staffs and another 25 are expected to be sent home by the coming weeks if the government does not consider its decision. Sajo Sambo has more.
Banjo Breweries Limited, the main company for the production of both soft and hard drinks in the Gambia, has threatened to shut down over heightened taxes on the sale of beer. The beverage subsidiary in the country has begun laying off laborers and adding more workloads on the current staffs. The country sales manager of Banjo Breweries Limited, Bori Dabo, alleged that the Gambia government is pushing the company to impossible duty exercise on the local produce hard drink from its initial 15% to a triggering 75% rise. This charges, he said, show a cumulative drop in the sales of beer by 22%, with a sharp drop of 31% towards the end of the tourist season. Mr. Dabo explains, due to the loss of profit, the company is compelled to cut down the number of staffs.
It's not a mere trade. It's already 12 to 18 staff are already gone home. Double shift has stopped. We are only doing one shift because our operational cost is so high, and at this rate we can never be able to continue. We've written letters, 4 letters to finance since this happened. Minister of Finance is just giving a deaf ear. Why he is doing it, we don't know.
The company had to reduce our labor force with 18 staffs already sent home and 25 staffs expected to be sacked by the coming weeks if government did not reconsider its decision. The sales manager argued that government's decision is dedicated by somewhat misleading information on the production of beer by the company. According to him, the finance minister misled the president with a false claim that the company is producing over 300 hectoliters a day.
No professional economics or even a tax, somebody who studied tax could advise his government or her government that increase from 10% to 75%.
Mr. Dansu, who supervised the production plant, said it is a difficult time for the company as sales of beer had direct bearing on its capability to maintain staff. With high taxes on the production of beer, the company is on the verge of shutting down.
Jena mare min bijang sembe mantrala ka information tam from ala boss nyolia ni wole min fire kolke. So ya decide fan very soon telba close la. They are going to close very soon. Ni momi ya mire ko sale momi ya mi ko nyum kundi wala kundinte a suet Because generally all the time the executive committee as a union that can command the nice meeting. Femfe na ba kala kan kolle. Any information na ba kala kan kolle. Kabiri ni taxo kala am kolla afonye. Kabiri safe minister fana safe. I'm kolla afonye. Minister ya safe letter me all the photocopies abe file mbuli. Ko ye taxo minka asiate nta atolon titano.
The assistant plant engineer Alaji Sise said the reduction of staff in the Banjul breweries has added pressure on the remaining laborers. He went on to say the duty exercise tax on the company is the highest in the sub-region.
If you observe it through the sub-region, we are the highest taxpayers in alcohol. So now if you are killing your own local company, where are they? This company is almost over 40 years serving the Gambian people, supporting Gambian people, directly or indirectly. Now, if this company close, directly you may affect 150, indirectly about 200 something with their family. So for that being case, we are appealing to the government to reduce tax a bit so that we can continue working.
Ibrahim Jah, one of the employees of the company, said in addition to increasing workload, he is afraid that job security is not certain.
Because mo woro le katara jam bar sante ndol mo fula drone be jam ndol le katara jam monin tay
wala may do ko ni na kolyande al bulu kat ko al mo woro le be jam wo na mo nanol ledu
wo mo nanol be sidale because nin kolya ko kabri task ni government tax ni lafa mo la fen ko gam say nata na mo be tala sandol mo fula drone be jam adu mo woro le nyanda tar la jam andol batandi bake billahi wala talla.
Although we couldn't reach the Gambia Revenue Authority for a breakdown of the calculation and to ascertain the company's claim for unfair treatment, it could be noted that the Gambia is a tax-based economy. Away from that, it could be the government is under pressure to represent the views of its highly religious population of over which 95% are Muslims and the rest are Christians. But the million-dollar question still stands, whether the government will stand aside, fold its arms and watch its citizens lose their job out of self-interest, or will it compromise its stance and save the hundreds of families back home looking on their sons and daughters to put food on the table by maintaining their jobs? Sajo Sambo, Africa TV News.
Shut down if government does not revisit its duty exercise policy. The two-day China's International Trade and Economic Development Plan, known as the Belt and Road Forum, wrapped up over the weekend at the Chinese capital, Beijing. The forum attracted political and business leaders from over 40 countries around the world, including the Secretary General of the United Nations. Addressing the forum, Antonio Guterres urged the international community to come together in mobilizing resources to implement the Sustainable Development Goals and to stop runaway climate change. He pledged the support of the United Nations member countries, saying the pillars of the Belt and Road Initiative link to the 17 SDGs, which include ending extreme poverty and hunger, and can translate into real-life progress for people. Al-Hassan Sise gives us more on that.
A two-day summit has concluded in the weekend at the China's capital, Beijing. This year's Belt and Road Forum brings together some political leaders and business representatives from over 40 countries. Speaking at the summit, the Secretary General Antonio Guterres said China's International Trade and Economic Development Plan, known as the Belt and Road Initiative, could contribute to a more equitable, prosperous world, among others.
Understanding that climate solutions are wise investments in an equitable, prosperous and sustainable future. And we now, looking ahead, are aware that at least 75% of the infrastructure our world will need by the year 2050 is yet to be built. So we have a unique opportunity to build a new generation of climate-resilient and people-centered cities and transit systems, energy grids that prioritize low emissions and sustainability. But that will require an urgent transformation in how we build our societies, power our cities, and invest in our economies. In the context I've just described, we absolutely need to come together and achieve two central objectives. First, a quantum leap in the mobilization of resources available for the developing world to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. And second, the capacity to stop runaway climate change. That is why I'm convening a Climate Action Summit in New York on September 23rd together with 4 other summit meetings during the high-level week on the UN General Assembly in September, covering different development-related strategies, and that will set the course for full implementation of the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Goals. Reimagine and rebuild our world that works for everyone, brings women into the leadership of the economy of the future, and expands the opportunities for young people. And I'm telling leaders, do not come to summits with speeches, come with credible and ambitious plans. Now, it is in this context that the Belt and Road Initiative assumes remarkable and urgent importance. With the scale of its planned investments, it offers a meaningful opportunity to contribute to the creation of a more equitable, prosperous world for all, and to reversing the negative impact of climate change.
Secretary General Guterres pledged the support of United Nations country teams, which comprises UN agencies, foundations and programs operating in a country, saying the pillars of the Belt and Road Initiative linked to the 17 SDGs, which include ending extreme poverty and hunger, and can translate into real-life progress for people.
First, the world will benefit from a Belt and Road Initiative that accelerates efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The 5 pillars of the Belt and Road, policy coordination, facilities connectivity, unimpeded trade, financial integration, and people-to-people exchanges are intrinsically linked to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These are conceptual pillars that can be translated into real-life progress for every people. United Nations country teams stand ready to support member states in capacity and governance building and in achieving an harmonious and sustainable integration of the Belt and Road projects in their own economies and societies, in accordance with national development plans anchored in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Second, the world needs to take profit of the Belt and Road Initiative to help close significant financing gaps for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, especially in the developing world.
In the final communique, leaders appreciate the progress already made in the Belt and Road Cooperation, especially the outcomes in areas such as development policy, energy, increased infrastructure investment, economic corridors, economic and trade cooperation zones, industrial parks, finance and trade cooperation, among others. Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Al-Hassan Sise.
Venezuela is confronting small group of traitorous military personnel who are attempting a coup, said the nation's vice president on Tuesday. Jose Rodriguez said that a group of soldiers self-deployed in the Altamira Distributor Road, which is close to La Corodota military air base, for uprising against the constitution and the peace of the country. We call on the people to remain on high alert together with the glorious Bolivarian National Armed Forces to defeat the coup attempt and preserve the peace, he said. Rodriguez's remarks came after the opposition leader Juan Guaido, who self-declared interim president, published a video where he called for an uprising with a group of soldiers. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez said that the National Bolivarian Armed Forces will continue to defend the constitution, and all military units reported normalcy in their bases. Meanwhile, Venezuela's Attorney General Tariq William Saab announced that legal action will be launched against those involved in the coup attempt led by Guaido. Venezuela has been rocked by protests since January 10th, when Maduro was sworn in for a second term following a vote boycotted by the opposition. The UN mission in Mali paid tribute to the Egyptian peacekeeper Sergeant Sabri Mohamed Ahmed Hussein, who was killed when his convoy was hit by a landmine in the region of Mopti. In a solemn ceremony held in the capital, Bamako, United Nations peacekeepers paid tribute and said farewell to their colleague who was killed in an explosion of an improvised landmine. 5 other blue helmets were wounded in the attack. Paying his tribute to the fallen soldier, the MINUSMA's force commander, General Denis Golian Spor, said Sergeant Sabri was one of the many blue helmets that put themselves at risk during their course of work.
We are gathered here in Bamako to pay him a solemn tribute and to say farewell, but also to commemorate his valiant efforts in the service of the United Nations. He was one of the many blue helmets that put themselves at risk in their daily work. And yet, this sergeant's sacrifice affects us all. His work as a member of the Egyptian Combat Convoy Company underpins our efforts to bring peace and security to Mali. We will respond by carrying out our duty as peacekeepers, patrolling day and night to protect the vulnerable and executing convoys that are essential to this task. We will respond by standing on our ground, firmly, shoulder by shoulder, with our Egyptian colleagues. And we will remain proactive and strong in our fight against any enemy who threatens to undermine our mission to improve the conditions for those who seek to live in peace in this country.
UN peacekeepers there paying tribute to Sergeant Sabri Mohammed Ahmed Hussein, whose convoy hit a landmine in Mopti, Mali. Clashes resumed south of Tripoli between forces loyal to Libya's UN-recognized government of the National Accord GNA and forces led by renegade commander Khalifa Haftar. Following days of relative calm, clashes erupted in the Al-Azizia region located roughly 45 kilometers south of the capital. Libya has remained beset by turmoil since long-standing leader Muammar Gaddafi was ousted and killed in a bloody NATO-backed uprising in 2011. Since then, the country has seen the emergence of two rival seats of power, one in eastern Libya with which Haftar is affiliated and another in Tripoli which enjoys UN recognition. Sajo Sambu gives us more on that.
Clashes resumed south of Tripoli this weekend before forces loyal to Libya's UN-recognized government of national accord and forces led by renegade commander Khalifa Haftar. Following 5 days of relative calm, clashes erupted in the Al-Azizia region located roughly 45 kilometers south of the capital, according to witnesses. In a statement, the GNA announced that its forces had captured significant territory in the Azin Zara and Wadi al-Rabi areas. It also said that it had carried out airstrikes against pro-Haftar forces in the city of Gayan, located some 100 kilometers south of Tripoli. In early April, Haftar launched a wide-ranging campaign aimed at capturing Tripoli, in which the GNA is headquartered. In the 3 weeks since, intermittent fighting around the capital has reportedly left sources of people dead. Libya has remained beset by turmoil since long-standing leader Muammar Gaddafi was ousted and killed in a bloody NATO-backed uprising in 2011. Since then, the country has been the emergency of two rival seats of power, one in eastern Libya with which Haftar is affiliated, and another in Tripoli which enjoys UN recognition.
GNA and Haftar forces in another clash after days of what seemed to be tranquilness. Coming up after the break, Britain's Prince William visited one of the mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, where a gunman killed 50 people last month. Welcome back. We remind you that you're watching the World Today Evening Bulletin. Let's now take a look at the remaining stories. Britain's Prince William on Friday visited one of the mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, where a gunman killed 50 people last month. In a speech he gave at Al Noor Mosque, where 42 worshippers were killed during the attack, Prince William said the terrorists who wanted to sow division and hatred failed. Prince William traveled to New Zealand on behalf of the Queen, who is considered as the head of state in that country. At least 50 Muslim worshippers were massacred with as many injured in a white supremacist terror attack by an Australian-born man on two mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand on March 15.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Today we gather in a place of worship, faith and friendship. We gather here in Al Noor Mosque, a home for community and for family. On the 15th of March, tragedy unfolded in this room. A terrorist attempted to sow division and hatred in a place that stands for togetherness and selflessness. He thought he could redefine what this space was. I'm here to help you show the world that he failed. Your Prime Minister showed extraordinary leadership of compassion and resolve, providing an example to us all. You showed the way we must respond to hate with love. You showed that when a particular community is targeted with prejudice and violence, simple acts like wearing a headscarf or broadcasting the call to prayer can reassure those who have reason to be afraid. You showed that an attack designed to divide a society against Muslims only brought us all closer to our Muslim friends. The Muslim community showed the world the true face of Islam as a religion of peace and understanding.
That was Prince William in New Zealand to pay respect on behalf of the Queen for the massacre of 50 Muslim worshippers on March 15. Former Ethiopian Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn has described as exceptional and enormous the investment of the Dangote Group in Africa's oil refining sector and urged other private sector investors to take a cue from the group's investment drive. Speaking during the tour of Dangote Jetty fertilizer and refinery plant, Desalegn said the president of the Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, has enormous influence in the sector and that his involvement in the general economic well-being of the whole of Africa is unquantifiable. He therefore encouraged other investors to consider the strategic nature of investment made by the conglomerate and emulate them in order to enhance the value of the continent's economy. Al-Hassan Sise has more.
Former Ethiopian Prime Minister charges African investors to emulate Dangote's investment drive. He insists that Africa needs massive investment like that of the Nigerian business tycoon for refinery for economic development. Hailemariam Desalegn is elated with the exceptional investment methodology of the Dangote Group in Africa's oil refining sector as he toured the facilities which employ thousands of people in the continent. Desalegn visited Dangote Jetty, fertilizer and refinery plant and then described the investment of Aliko Dangote as influential sector in the general economic well-being of whole of Africa. He encouraged other investors to consider employing the strategic nature of business evolution similar to that of the Dangote Group, should the value of the African economy be taken more seriously. I think this is a lesson for other African investors to take risks and bring about big change. A mega project of this magnitude actually needs dedication and commitment as well as sacrifice. To the former politician, investors in the continent must recognize that investment in essential sectors that would remain critical to sustainable economic growth. I think this project is not only for Nigeria but for the entire African countries. Dangote provide 135,000 retail outlets, 26,716 filling stations, and 129 depots in Nigeria, while the 2,600 trucks for transport create additional jobs. His project also enhances skill development and capacity building for Nigerians. This includes high-level recruitment such as the current second batch of engineers in India sponsored by the business group. Reporting for iAfrica TV, I am Al-Hassan Sise.
UN Environment Programme UNEP has said there is optimism that concrete steps will be taken to eliminate plastic pollution at sea, among other key measures to protect people and the environment from toxic products. According to the UNEP, there is an estimated 100 million tons of plastic in seas and an estimated 50 million tons of electronic waste generated every year. Speaking to journalists, UNEP's Rolf Payet, Executive Secretary of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions, known as the Triple Corp, said he hasn't heard any serious objections to this, but still remains to hear the parties themselves take the floor and pronounce on it. There's an insight. Let's take a look.
I haven't heard any serious objections to this. It still remains to hear the parties themselves take the floor and pronounce on this. But as you know, we had an open-ended working group here in Geneva about 6 months ago. We had concerns with the objections to the proposal. For me, will send a very strong political signal, not only to governments but also to industry, that we have to do something about it. And we still also don't know enough on the health impacts of those plastics on our bodies. Although we know in some parts of the world, they've detected plastics already in food that people are eating. DDT, for example, now there's only one company that produces DDT, and there are very few countries that are using DDT now for malaria control. And there's a lot of pressure, even coming from the African group now, for DDT to be completely stop production. We are hoping, because I've already seen alternatives, for example, here in Europe, of non-PFOA stick pans, non-stick pans, which are non-PFOA. So we're hoping that this kind of transition, especially in consumer products, there might be a quick transition with alternatives coming in. And when a container is being sent to country B from country A, country B knows exactly what is in this container, and country A also can ensure what is in this container is actually what it's supposed to be in.
For his part, Hans Dreyer, Executive Secretary at the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization Rotterdam Convention, explained that the challenge will be to produce enough nutritious and healthy food without harming human health and the environment by hazardous pesticides.
This will, of course, reduce the risk posed by these hazardous chemicals and pesticides, as my colleague just pointed out, to protect farmers' health, but not only farmers' health, but also bystanders, children, all those who are involved in chemicals, in particular pesticides.
I still remember the days of stories of asbestosis, when people would come back from work, we didn't know about asbestosis, it would be on their clothing, in their hair. They would hug their family and hug their children, and then we had this business of young ones getting asbestosis, and that was a real memory as a kid. And I see now we're getting a similar thing with pesticide, glyphosates and the like, where a family has worked on farms, worked with animals, worked with horses, and have been using pesticides, and then, can you believe it, well, I guess we can, it's gone into the young ones.
We now take a look at sports. Gambian workers are stretching up their muscles for the annual May Day Sports slated for tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Independence Stadium in Bacau. The annual occasion will bring together institutions and companies to interact and participate in various events such as tug of war, athletics, and other sporting disciplines. The event, now organized by the National Sports Council, was initiated by George F. Gomez, the then Executive Secretary of the Gambian National Olympic Committee (GNOC) in 1991, to bring together workers from different institutions and companies to build friendship among them.
Well, May Day Sports was started in 1991 after I was appointed Executive Director of the National Olympic Committee, and one of my mandates was to raise funds and to make sports accessible and popular. And I thought of having an event where all the workers would come and converge, have sports together, make friends with each other. And I thought this would be a good thing for the workers to know each other. And one of my reasons for excuses for doing it was to get people to be friends together. I say, if you can make two friends every May Day Sports of people that you are not working with, and you will then be putting almost 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 Gambians to know each other and to become friends, and that's going to be good for our community and for our country. That was one of the excuses. That was why I looked at sports as a means of getting people together. The other reason was to see whether people can use sports as a means of keeping fit. Because at the time in 1991, when you finish work, you have nowhere to go. People just go in and sit together, play draft. And I thought that was not good for the health of the nation. And if we can put together an event where people can come together and do sports, then they will keep fit. And a fit individual, worker is a fit. A fit individual creates a fit nation, and a fit nation is a productive nation. And that was why I thought, well, sports would be a good idea to bring people together. And I proposed this to the Olympic Committee, and they thought it was a good idea as well. And so we were killing two birds with one stone. One, to raise funds through Mayday, through sports, by organizing Mayday Sports, and B, to get the people to use sports as a means of keeping fit. So we threw the idea to the companies. In the first instance, we threw the idea to the unions, and the unions were not very happy about it to start with. But after a series of meetings, we were able to convince them that that's the right way to go in terms of celebrating May Day. Because before, in 91, what used to happen was that the unions would have a march in the afternoon going to the KG5 in Banjul. But their marches were not well supported. Only the children would be going there and following the drums and things like that. But the actual workers were not then going to these marches. So it was poorly attended. So I used that as a reason of telling them, look, if you come with us to do the sports, we can get all the workers to come in the morning and do the march with you. So you'll move your march from the afternoon to the morning so that the workers can come and join you.
On the reasons of dropping in numbers of the participating institutions, Mr. Gama said there is a need to revisit the event and program of the May Day sports as it becomes monotonous, saying what was interesting 10 years ago may not be the same today.
A lot of things have changed over the years, but some of the events maybe are not relevant anymore and needs to be looked at. Some of the organization in terms of where people sit, what are they allowed to do during the event, needs to be reviewed. And if this is not done, the event becomes monotonous. And if the event becomes monotonous, then you have a problem. People will start withdrawing. And I want to think maybe there should be the current organizers now should sit together and look at what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, what needs to be added, what needs to be deleted. Now, unless they do that, people get monotony, they get disinterested, and they will not attend. We have, over the years, since we started media sport, tried a lot of things. In the first 2 years, we used to have wrestling. We used to invite the professional wrestlers to come and to wrestle during May Day sports. And that became very popular. People used to come just to see the wrestling. Maybe that will not apply now, but you look at things that will attract people to come, A, to watch, and B, to participate. Watch, the audience is very important. Because if I'm running and nobody is there to look at me, I will not run tomorrow. But if I'm running and people come to look at me, they will start clapping for me, and tomorrow that will encourage me to come. So you need to get things that will interest the people so that they will come next time. And unless that is done, I am afraid many sports would have less and less and less, and eventually will die.
That was George F. Gomez, the initiator of the May Day Sports, giving an overview of the event and the way forward. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today Evening Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, log on to our website, iafrica.tv. I am Fatmata Jaju. Bye for now. Please stay tuned for our upcoming programs. Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime